In this video, I want to talk about whether the whole AI thing is inflated or there is an AI bubble. Now, I talk about AI quite a bit in terms of how it could be a threat to jobs and all this kind of stuff there. But is that actually true? Now, obviously, I didn't say this stuff to be just disingenuous or try to get people to watch whatever it may be. But the reality is, there has been a lot said about AI that has made people nervous, made people anxious. And actually, we're seeing things all the time blasted on our social medias, on our YouTube channels, based on conversations, chat GPT this, Gemini that, Claude this, etc., etc. But what's the data actually saying? So I want to share this report with you. And this report, let me scroll to the top so you can see it. So this report here is the state of AI in business in 2025. I haven't read all of it. I did get AI to help me break this down, but I want to sort of like highlight some key stuff here. So I've highlighted this. Despite 30 to 40 billion in enterprise investment into general AI, so ChatGPTs and all that kind of stuff there, this report uncovers a surprising result in that 95% of organizations are getting zero return. Let's just pause on that for a second. 95% of organizations are getting zero return. Now, there's a lot of organizations out there, and it's probably just been in the States or big global companies, but 95%. Yes, that number may increase over the years. Okay, maybe in 2030, that number may be 80% or 75% or even 20%. But right now, it's 95%. So that says something about actually what is the state of play of AI right now. Let me share the next bit. So it says here, from our interviews, surveys, and analysis, 300 public implementations, 4 patterns emerged that define the Gen AI divide. So limited disruption. So only 2 of 8 major sectors show meaningful structural change. And I want to talk more about what one of those sectors are. Enterprise paradox. So big firms lead in pilot volume but lag in scale up. So the pilot may look good and all this kind of stuff there, but scaling it, yeah, expensive, difficult, requires capacity, requires knowledge, all of that kind of stuff. Investment bias. Budgets favor visible top line functions over high RO back office, which I'll talk more about in a second. And implementation advantage. So external partners see twice the success rate of internal builds. So these are the things that are popping up again and again and again when it comes to AI and the use of it within the workplace as well. And so looking back at my notes, it says here that 7 out of 9 sectors show no real structural change, despite 90% of enterprises exploring AI solutions. And so, what is essentially happening is you've got some sectors that are successful. Okay, there's only 2 of them, so to speak, and actually, AI is not really integrated in the workplace and the operations the way people think it should be. Okay, and so there's a bit of a shadow economy that exists where individuals, employees, all that kind of stuff there utilize AI from a personal standpoint. So, okay, can I use ChatGPT for my emails? Can I use Gemini to write a report? Can I use Claude to synthesize all this information? Can I use DeepSeek to help me write code so that I can put it into this, whatever it may be? So, on an individual basis, there's productivity, so to speak. And of course, you may be thinking that should translate into some sort of ROI, but does it really move the needle? And it looks like it doesn't really move the needle in that way. And it says that there's a huge bias towards a general AI being utilized in sales and marketing. And we can clearly see this online, how you can start up your AI agency, how you can create your AI agents. I said agency again, how you can create ads using AI or pictures using AI, like I think it's Nano Banana now on Gemini as an example. How you can use it to create all these campaigns and funnels and flows and all this kind of stuff there. So yes, there is a bias towards sales and marketing, but for back office functions, you're not really seeing it like that, like for administration and project management, etc., etc. And of course, the argument being made here is that it's harder to measure these things because there's not a defined number. You can still measure these things, and you measure them based on deliverables. You measure them based on KPIs and metrics that are set up by the PMO, but not every organization is going to have that set up because they don't have an operating model that defines key success metrics and KPIs and all of that kind of stuff. So 50% of all Gen AI within organizations is focused on sales and marketing. So there's a heavy bias. And so when we look at this information here, it's saying that what organizations want is something that is agentic by nature and has memory. What does this mean? Well, if you break it down, you've got generative AI, which does the chat GPT stuff. Then you've got automation, which has been around for a while. Then you've got integration, which adopts the automation element where you've got one software or thing that speaks to another thing. And so when you add AI to that, it has a certain level of intelligibility based on its context window and how much information it gathers at one point. But then when you add memory, it not only has the context, but it remembers what it did before. And you can define that based on how much computing power you have and what you're willing to spend. And so CEOs are wanting that sort of stuff, which makes perfect sense. I think we all kind of want that to some degree. They want things that allow them to retain some sort of feedback mechanism so that they can automate some of this stuff. So it says here 66% of executives want systems that learn from feedback, and 63% demand context retention. So, what are we learning from this? I guess we're learning from this that actually there's still a long way to go when it comes to organizations. There's still a long way to go for AI to truly replace an individual. Now, what we are seeing is in individual sort of spaces and organizations is that ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, all these things are helping for allowing us to do things quickly, but we're just shoving more in one window. That's what's happening. So we're actually burning ourselves out quicker because we're like, okay, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Nobody wants to say that they're using ChatGPT. Nobody wants to say that they've been stuffing stuff into Gemini. All of this kind of, nobody wants to say that. Some people are playing a game where they're acting like they're doing stuff, not doing anything, and then do it last minute because they got the leverage of AI. So there are all these gaps that are being seen, but not necessarily being quantified, so to speak. The other thing is to say that those businesses or startups that are winning are the ones that have a narrow focus. So you would have seen this advice where they say create a GPT on ChatGPT or a Gem on Gemini for specific things. So you could create, and this basically a GPT or a Gem is a chat, a specific chat that has a specific purpose. So you give it a specific instruction with context. This could be files and videos and all this kind of stuff there, where it spits out something, it produces something based on the instructions and context that you provide it. So this could be based on producing YouTube headlines. This could be based on creating the SEO for your YouTube. This could be based on writing articles. This could be based on a whole bunch of stuff. And so it's those narrow defined things that work. And so if you are a portfolio careerist, a consultant or entrepreneur, what I would do is create GPTs or gems and create a table with the link to the GPT or gem, the purpose of it, and essentially create a library that essentially helps you do the heavy lifting. It's still manual to a degree, it's not going to be perfect, but it will create leverage if you've designed it the right way. So, really, that's what's happening there. I think the other thing to note is that successful organizations treat AI startups as business service providers demanding deep customization, benchmarking tools, and operational outcomes, blah, 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 blah. I don't need to read through all of this stuff. But I guess the point that's being made here is that we're not quite there yet. People are saying AGI, people are saying in 5 years, people are saying all this stuff. Focus on doing what you're doing really well. Focus on doing what you're doing really well. Don't worry too much about AI. People are still working that out. And I think once you understand how to do what you're doing really well and you understand the methodologies, the frameworks, the processes, then you can start thinking about how can you utilize AI to leverage this stuff. Don't rush it. Because if you're not making money, if you're not finding any opportunities, if you're not that person yet, there's no point thinking about AI right now because you're just making it worse. You're just making it worse. A lot of people have pivoted into a space because it feels catchy and they're trying to catch a wave. But I would say there's a bit of inflation. We're living in an inflationary environment right now. AI will get there. It is getting there, trust me. It definitely is. But the general population doesn't necessarily know how to use it. It will get there when we truly know how to adopt, create, integrate agentic tools that have memory into our systems. It will get there when the stuff I've just said is adopted into some sort of Android or bot or physical tool that can do manual labor with the intelligibility of these agentic tools. That's when we'll get there, but we're not quite there yet. So take advantage of this. Don't be scared. There are still opportunities out there. Just survey the market and understand what makes sense for you. So I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you think this is an AI inflationary bubble? Do you think actually I'm deluded in what I'm saying? Do you think I'm quite balanced with what I'm saying? Is there anything I've missed? I'd love to know your thoughts. Please feel free to comment below. If you want to see more videos centered around independent consulting, contracting, and portfolio careers, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.